Hi there, in this video I'm going to go over the development of apple hunting, my submission to the Game Maker's Toolkit Jam 2019. I'll also cover the feedback I received and what I learned from it as well. Going into the jam, there were a few goals I had in mind. They were to finish and submit within the time limit, and also use rigid bodies in Godot to get comfortable with them a bit more. I previously hadn't used them, so I thought this would be a good time to learn a bit more about them. When the theme was announced as only one, I went with the first thing that came to mind: shooting an apple. In my mind, it was simple enough in scope such that I could finish the game, and I felt I could execute it with my current knowledge of Godot. I started to work on a system where I could get a vector input from the player so I could use it for the direction of the arrow. Here you can see it in the bottom left, where vectors are made by clicking and dragging. The apples themselves were rigid bodies, so they were affected by gravity and the physics of the engine. Initially, the apples fell from above, but I decided to make them rise from below so they could have a more interesting movement pattern. This meant I had to give them wings, which I was okay with. At this point I had abandoned rigid bodies and used Area 2D nodes instead. I felt using rigid bodies was a bit overkill, as I didn't need such realistic physics and I could handle the movement and rotation of the arrow myself using code. About halfway through the jam I had everything in place. I had a way to track the player, I had some tutorial text and some random movement for the apples. The only thing left to do was to polish everything up, and I felt comfortable knowing that the last 24 hours was just for polishing and doing just that. So for the last day I spent most of my time working on assets and fixing some bugs and strange behaviours with the bow and arrow. For example, making sure things didn't break when the player dragged out of the dragging area. It was in the last few hours that I did a quick search for some open music that I could use. I stumbled across some music by Pen Pearson, which seemed light-hearted enough, so I just used that. I also made some sounds using a great program called BFXR. I'll put the links in the description below. Most of the comments on the ratings page were positive. They mentioned it was fun, simple, well executed. The negative comments I got mentioned the frustrating pop-up text and how it didn't feel great that only a certain part of the game screen could be used to pull back the arrow. A few comments also mentioned wanting to hit all the apples instead of just one. Apple hunting scored 4.15 out of 5 on adherence to the theme of only one, 3.45 out of 5 in design, and 3.5 out of 5 in originality. Overall, it scored 3.7 out of 5, and came 622nd out of 2,648 submissions. I'm really happy with how the game turned out, and with the feedback I received. I feel that the 3.7 score is fair. After all, the game is certainly not as imaginative or complex as other entries, but it's also stable and complete. It's easy to compare to other submissions, but I'm just glad I completed my goals. I finished on time and I learnt more about rigid bodies. More specifically, that they have their place, and that place wasn't in this game in particular. I've already made an update to apple hunting that has taken the feedback on board. I'll be releasing a new version that's more streamlined in the future. The jam itself was great, and I'll certainly be doing more of that in the future, so keep an eye out for more Postmortem videos like this. Thanks for watching. Feel free to like or dislike the video, and if you have any questions, please comment below and I'll get back to you. Cheers!